Hello, and welcome to the Albright Scholar for August 2022. My name is John Pankratz. I teach history at Albright, and each month it's my privilege to welcome BCTV viewers and residents of Greater Reading to take a glimpse inside our learning community up here on North 13th Street, to look at the work being done by teachers and students, and to think about its impact on all of us. Well, in a few short weeks, the fall semester will begin. The campus will be crowded with teachers and students and visitors, and we're looking forward to what I hope will be a near normal fall of learning and exploring, of creating and innovating. But I don't want you to think that the summer has been quiet, because there is a group of people, actually several different groups of people, who've been working very hard on and around the Albright campus. And tonight we're going to talk with several of those people who have participated in Albright's really very famous ACRE program, the Albright Creative Research Experience. This is a program that every summer invites students and faculty teams to propose a research project and gives them funding for 10 weeks of intensive research and presentations as well. And these cover a wide range of topics, STEM fields like forest ecology or chemistry, but also the social sciences and psychology, as well as the humanities and the arts as well. Fashion design or musical composition, or maybe a combination of history and political campaign songs as well. Today we're here with 4 participants, two of our teams. Marcella Kraft is here with her mentor, Dr. Laura Gellety, and CJ Billick is here with my colleague in history, Dr. Guillaume Sion. And we're going to learn a little bit more about what it's like to spend the summer hard at work, learning more than you ever thought possible. Welcome to all of you.
Hi. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Marcella, let's start with you. You're special because you are a student in applied psychology in our School of Professional Studies, so a program for adult learners returning to school. And I think you're the first ACRE awardee out of that program. So congratulations and welcome. What drew you to spend the summer doing this independent research along with Dr. Gellety?
Several reasons. I have a innate curiosity, and I love learning and I love asking questions. And I saw this as a great opportunity to really do that, to really spend time, especially with the online platform that we have been learning from due to COVID, to finally be in partnership with a professor like Dr. Gellety, and learn and explore this field that is such of a deep interest of mine, which is traumatology and growth after trauma.
Great. I think intellectual curiosity is the best motivation. CJ, what about you? You could have, I don't know, spent the summer at the shore or something like that, but instead you have your nose buried in historical primary sources.
Well, being an academic is something I've wanted to do for a while. I mean, well, since senior year of high school, basically I want to take you or Dr. G's job someday.
Okay.
But this I saw as like an opportunity to finally do something concrete. Like I've had nebulous ideas floating around in my head for a while, but this finally gave me an opportunity to both operationalize it as well as have expertise and funding to actually get something productive done.
Yeah.
So as much work I did, I could have not have done this without the help of Dr. G showing me how to properly handle doing research, because I have learned that, but I wasn't at the level where I would be ready to properly do research like this until this point. So I think this will help me as I further my academic career as well.
I think that mentorship and apprenticeship are so important. I think there are some schools where a faculty member will have an ongoing research project and bring a student on as an assistant, but that's not what we do with the Acre. It really is a question that stimulates the student's curiosity. They approach the faculty member and say, would you work with me on this project? Laura, I guess this must be your first Acre as well, right?
Yes, it is.
Good.
And
What
I'm
was the
glad
appeal for you? I can understand the appeal of working with an eager student like Marcella. There's no
Well,
question about it.
that is the primary appeal. But like you just said, this is these Acre projects, they're the students' projects. You know, I'm just the guide. And one of the most rewarding aspects of this whole process for me is being able to provide Marcella with the valuable research experience that she'll need to pursue graduate study in psychology, which she's
Right.
very interested in doing. But also like Marcella, and I think all of us in doing this interview here, I'm also a very curious person and I love to learn. And one of the best ways to learn about different fields of psychology outside of my own area of expertise is to help mentor students with their projects, with their interests. And so that's a big reward for me as well.
I think so.
And-
There's an excitement getting up to speed in order to dialogue over any kind of problem.
Yes.
You really have to bring your A game.
Yeah, well, it also helps me to further hone and maintain my own research skills, which kind of, go by the wayside when, we're just fulfilling our overall teaching obligations and things like that. This really lets me dive in back into the research side of things. So it's been a really rewarding process.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, Guillaume, you've done a lot of acres over the years, and so you're a glutton for punishment, or else you must really enjoy it.
It's true that I had to joke in a sort of half serious manner to a colleague years ago who said, you're doing all these, and you must get a lot published. And I said, no, you have to understand, every acre I take on is in fact an article or a chapter I do not write in my own research.
Probably.
Why do I choose to do that? Because it's fun. I learn something new, and in fact, it allows me, in fact, to improve my teaching.
Yes.
So I had an opportunity to work with CJ, and CJ had taken courses with me before online, and so because of COVID, so they'd done the Asian survey, we'd done the World War II survey. And I said, so are you interested in anything? And so all of a sudden he thrusts upon me a topic that he'll talk about later. And I said, oh, okay, sure. And of course, I find myself rushing to the local library. It's like, okay, what do I know about this? What do I not know about this, especially? And that's the most important thing, is that this is what's unique about the Acre Project, is that, in fact, our students invite us to learn something new. And that's what Laura alluded to. Yeah. And so I have never had any single shred of regret with any of the acres I've had an opportunity to work with. Sometimes it's kind of funny because sometimes we just sort of let the student do their work, and in fact CJ is an amazing sort of initiator of his own work on his own. In fact, I still have to get a couple of briefings from him about what he's up to and what I'm up to, because as you know, John, in history our lab is books. It's not looking together at a microscope or anything of the sort. So we still have a little bit of catching up to do together. But at the same time, it's this notion that we are going to teach each other something and come out for the better.
That's right. I love your point about being taken a little bit far afield from our own core interests, because at a small liberal arts college, we really do have to be versatile in our teaching, right? We can't specialize narrowly. We really have to respond to lots of different historical topics or psychological topics or scientific topics as well. Let's get into the actual research that you've done. CJ, I'll start with you, and then I'll turn to Marcella as well. What have you been studying, and what have you been learning, CJ?
So I've been doing a piece on the Japanese American experience in World War II, and this is focusing on both the home front as well as the military front, which, back to the point that was made before about it getting out of your comfort zone, this has been both deep within my comfort zone, because what I want to specialize in is the New Deal coalition era, like right from 1932 up to 1976, where the coalition falls apart with Hubert Humphrey. But so this is right smack in the middle of it. But civil politics has been my focus, and like on the home front. But I really hadn't looked into military history like at all. But I've had to do this that in this project because of how correlated they are. And that's where I'm like doing new work, is like finding that connection, because in most of the literature I have read on this so far, they're barely talked about in like the same breath. They talk about there was the internment, and then there was the 100th and 442nd, and like they will talk about how it was the soldiers who would serve in that segregated unit, which is what we're studying, is like the process for these all Japanese, all Asian American units to get the proper recognition they deserve, get their medals upgraded because they were given congressional, I forget the name of it. They were given the second best citation when they deserved the Medal of Honor. And it is things like that. But a lot of the connections between like this happened because of the latent racism that led to the camps happening in the first place, because a lot of the military brass, like General DeWitt, who led the internment, basically said this happened for no good reason other than racism, which I say as if that's a good reason, but it isn't. And that connection really hasn't been made until I've worked on this.
Great. It's one of those cases. We don't do military history as the history of strategy or even tactics. We do military history in the social context out of which different decisions get made. And clearly the social context in the United States generally, on the West Coast in particular, was one of racial antipathy and social tension. And I think there's nothing more remarkable than the young men and women who volunteered for service, fighting for a country that had imprisoned them and their families. It's a really remarkable.
And also the roles, it was arguably just as brave. They were given questionnaires, the people in these camps, as to whether they were loyal to the government. And it is arguably, there were some who were interned for saying, no, I won't serve the US. No, I am not loyal to the United States. And they were interned in the, like separately from all of the other Japanese Americans who were set aside. Some of them were given the option of repatriation. Most of them did not take it though. So not only is that a less covered aspect of this, but it's also important to highlight that, because that could arguably be as brave as the people who went into fire for said country, but for very different reasons.
Yeah. I guess both of your topics have to do with trauma. Marcella, you're not talking about wartime or imprisonment, but you're talking about a range of childhood traumas and the adulthoods that result or that follow those. How have you gone about studying this?
I think it all began from my own experience. As a child, I fought what I'm studying today. I fought chronic poverty, homelessness, domestic violence, abuse. In 1998, 1999, I lost my family and we lost everything we had to a natural disaster, which was a mudslide. After decades of this interpersonal traumatic experiences that just builds up and builds up and builds up, once you start putting all your broken pieces together, right, and you really take that time to look inwards and then see what you have become from those experiences and look around and see what is happening in your environment, in your community, in your neighborhood, in your, like how everybody that it's like going through sort of like similar experiences in some level, how are they dealing with their traumatic experiences? So it always interested me, like why I came out of trauma in one way. For example, my addiction out of trauma was education. So I went to school over and over and over again, and I have like 5 degrees now, and I'm very proud of it. But that it's like you resourcing to something that will make you go a step further from that traumatic experience and away, right? Some people will resource to alcoholism or to drug or to overeating or whatever it is. Mine was education. And so that it's a very, this is a very personal topic to me. And it's really not only I'm interested in traumatology, but in how healing happens, right? And how it's possible and how there's growth after trauma, because we go through these experiences in life and we identify with the pain in such deep level that we think we are the pain, right? We think we are the brokenness. We think we are the failure. We think we are the anxiety or the depression or whatever it is that it's the collateral from those experiences. But it's not, right? We are light and we are whole. So it's all about finding the whole, what is whole in each of us, and build up the broken pieces out of that space of wholeness. Wow. You know, so that always interests me, the healing aspect of trauma. So
as you've said, this is a personal topic for you, but you're also studying the many people in our society today who've gone through this.
Yes, I work as a designer for over a decade, and then when I was doing after so many jobs, I realized that I'm working to help people making their home beautiful, but I'll never achieve the beauty that I want to instill in their life because it's deeper than their living room or their bedroom or their new kitchen or their new basement or whatever it is. So I just one day, it was after actually a brain injury, I had this awakening, and I was like, I want to do something more meaningful with my life, and I want to help people in a deeper level. And that's when I decided to go back to school for psychology, and I want to become a clinical psychology, and I want to go more towards like a health psychology, like a neuropsychology related with trauma and healing, like the health aspects of healing from those traumatic experiences, and what can we do, right? So we have the maybe the diabetes or the heart condition or whatever it is, what we do from there on. Yes. How can we progress towards a healing path from there on?
Yeah. Let me toss this back to CJ a little. Have you looked at the aftermath, the years following both the war and the internment of Japanese Americans?
Yeah, that is a lot of the focus, is how it has remained in the social conscious, because as well as like how it was like properly commemorated. Like there was no proper reparation for this, for the internment of these Japanese Americans until 1988, signed into law by Ronald Reagan. Yeah. This was put into action by Franklin Roosevelt, just to show those who know their presidents just how many people were in between. Harry Truman would sign a bill doing some reparation, but there was no admittance of wrongdoing. It was purposely a pain to get any form of reparation, and the amount was so small compared to the losses that they actually accrued. And even the 1988 bill would pale in comparison to not only the loss of property, because there were people buying things for pennies on the dollar when they had to relocate, as well as the loss of status, because one of the books I've looked through on this, it's like history of is a commission report on the internment process, states how Japanese American farmers controlled a plurality of the produce trade on the West Coast at the time. And that's just gone now. Like I don't know the numbers now, but it is not nearly the same as it was. So we've looked into those effects as well as like the construction memorials, because the camps themselves were demolished by the end of the 1950s. Like there's like 1 or 2 original structures left,
Right.
as well as, like I said, there had to be a fight to get the proper medals given to these soldiers who would serve as well, because they were not upgraded from a Distinguished Service Cross to the Medal of Honor, which they earned but lost out on due to racism until the Bill Clinton administration.
Yeah. Now, Laura, we know Marcella's topic. What research process have you gone through with her to learn more about other cases of trauma and the process of healing and repairing oneself?
Right. So what we're doing is we finished collecting the data, but we distributed an anonymous online survey
Okay.
to approximately 185 participants, where they completed a battery of questionnaires, including the Adverse Childhood Experiences questionnaire. And the other questionnaires included things like where they rated their current levels of stress, anxiety, depression. There were questions pertaining to their current health habits, to their overall psychological well-being. And what we're currently doing is we are looking at the data that we've collected, and we're going to do a series of correlational analyses to see if the extent of one's experience with childhood trauma is related to their everyday life in adulthood, their level of stress, their level of depression, any kind of chronic health conditions that they might have, how they cope with stress, the kinds of health behaviors they engage in. So really just doing a big correlational study where we're looking to see if those variables are in any way related.
Right. And I suppose if there are strong correlations, then we can guess that there's kind of a causal impact of those early traumas.
Well, no, with correlations you can't infer causation,
isn't it?
but it's a step in that direction of, yes. We first need to determine if those things are related at all, and then, future research, we can look into the more causal explanations through additional studies.
Great. So this will be a very systematic and in some ways quantitative kind of
yes,
study,
absolutely,
as well as qualitative. Yeah,
right.
I think that's useful.
Yeah.
I think so. Guillaume, you and CJ have been reading lots of books. There's a huge literature. You're looking at government publications, but you're looking at autobiographies and memoirs and that sort of thing as well.
So we are, and it's a decision we have to make later on. In fact, CJ will have to decide. I'm just a guide here, and he decides where to go. That's the beauty of the ACRE system. Yeah. That how much we want to focus on the civilian experience, in which there are a lot of memoirs. In fact, the most recent one is George Takei's, yes. The actor of Star Trek fame, who agreed to basically share his experiences with graphic novelists, and it's an absolutely brilliant story that way. So how much do we want to go in this direction? How much do we want to focus on the 100-442nd, right. The military experience? There's another element we have not yet really sort of investigated, is this notion of the monuments that have gone up, one in particular in LA, California. So there's the official narrative, but there's of course a lot more reading in terms of history versus memory. How do people perceive that particular well put together monument, which is an interesting example. It's at an angle. It almost like it reminds a little bit of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, which is sort of digs into the ground, sort of as a jab, as a pain. So is that something that is inspired from the Vietnam Veterans Memorial? We have not yet looked into that. The biggest challenge, I think, for CJ and me is CJ is a future brilliant teacher. And he has a lot, of course, to finish in order to get his certificate, his teaching certificate. In parallel, damn COVID, because the National Archives requires at least 6 weeks advance notice to even so much as visit them for a couple of hours. And I know that because I just hung out with a couple of colleagues who, in fact, did it 6 months ago in order to be able to access the material they wanted. And that's been the tragedy of the pandemic, is that many researchers are delayed. So there were some elements we could have looked at together that we haven't been able to. We're still optimistic. I mean, there's still so much to do in the printed materials, right, CJ? That we're not worried, but it's unfortunate that we couldn't dig as deeply into primary sources as we would have liked to.
Yeah. In addition to an acre report and paper, will this turn into an honors thesis of some sort?
Potentially.
Yeah.
First of all, as G mentioned, I have quite the schedule ahead of me.
No, it's
So
hard to do teaching certification and honors thesis both.
I definitely want one. I think it would look good, and for one thing. And like I've said, I want practice doing research because that's what I hope to do in my professional life. So that would be very good practice. If not that, I've considered a departmental distinction as well. But I am a double major of history as well as political science education. And I've had a poli-sci idea kicking around as well that I might try and develop just so I can do research in both to see which I prefer.
Yeah. Now, Marcella, you'll be finishing your studies in the coming school year. Is that right?
Yeah, I have 16 credits, 4 classes that I'm taking with Dr. Galetti in the fall. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited for what is next. And I want to apply to grad school. And I feel like this ACRE project and this whole experience has been sort of like a stepping ladder for me as I climb in a way of like equipping myself with the knowledge and tool that I need to combine with my own lived experience and make the difference that I really want in this field, and spreading the word of resilience and growth after trauma.
How wonderful. How wonderful. I can just testify I've seen an awful lot of ACRE students come through, and I know that so many of them use this experience, this intense process of discovery, but also taking responsibility as a stepping stone to graduate school, because it proves what you're able to produce. It proves that you know how to think originally about complex issues. So yeah, to both of you, in all your future studies, I really hope that you value what you've learned this summer. I think we've enjoyed it as well. We're just about at the end of our half hour here. So I'll thank Marcella and CJ and Laura and Guillaume for sharing the Zoom screen with me. And thank you for being with us as well. We'll see you again once school has begun in the month of September on another edition of the Albright Scholar. So long.